Hi friends, this is Alagappan. In this video, we are going to discuss about how to approach Mulesoft's Munit. So we all know, like from our previous development, like unit testing is really essential, and it should cohesively work with development because without unit testing, if you push it to the higher environment, it will create impact in the development. So Mulesoft provides a plugin called Munit, and this platform also requires an understanding of components because the components which we are going to have it in Munit development versus the component which we are going to have it in the actual development, a bit of things are different because the components which are going to deal with the unit, it is more to test the one which is actually developed uh, on the actual development course. So I'm just going to highlight a basic example of how to approach unit. We are going to see it in two tracks. One track, we are going to demonstrate the unit uh, with the help of Studio, and in another track we are going to see how unit um, can cohesively work in the command line. So the command line is also essential to have it in the place just because you can tie it up with the Jenkins server so that you can automate all your builds because we are not going to run this API which we are developing it in the mission. We are not going to run it in our own mission. We are going to push it to some server. So we just really need automation on the build part and the deployment part. So uh, before deployment, we can just validate the package whether it is all good in terms of unit testing or not. So you can make use of the unit effectively in conjunction with Jenkins so that you can make use of unit testing your APIs better. So I just created a simple project, a domain project. So we all know why we need a domain project because domain project really helps the project resources to be managed in a centralized way so that multiple projects can cohesively work with getting the control from one domain. So uh, from the previous developments, we know like how much it is really essential to pool the resources because every resource we are consuming it, it is an HTTP or a JDBC or a file connector or whatever it is. So every resource it's a thread. So we need to make use of the pooling very wisely. So the domain project is one of the crucial entities which can make use of sharing the things which are common across multiple API. If you are developing some uh, more than one API, so you really need a domain project. If all they are sharing a common listeners, you can still share it. It's more like a JDBC pooling. So if they are all sharing, trying to connect a common backends, you can make use of it with a common HTTP requester. And if you're thinking like gradually more and more APIs will come, so you can still have a domain project for that so that you can establish a listener and a requester, and going forward, you can make use of it best way. So I just created a domain project, and it basically has the runtime as Mule Server 3.8.2 EE. So before Mule Server 3.8.2 EE, Mule has two runtimes like API Gateway runtime and Mule Core runtime. So the API Gateway runtime, it's one of the critical runtime which really gives you a control point to control all your APIs with policies. Policies are nothing but like if you want to rate limit your API, if somebody is hitting with uh, a lack of bad request, so they are not able to penetrate your API, but they are really trying to block your environment. So in that case, you just really need a policy to rate limit. Okay, If some customer or if some hacker is continuously hitting, obviously you need to protect it with firewall, but you can still apply a rate limiting policy. Yes, if a person submits more than this sort of request, you just block it at the web server, block it at the DMZ zone, so that he cannot penetrate you, and he cannot control your systems internally. So uh, the API gateway runtime, right now in 3.8.2, they have just merged into the Mule runtime, Mule core itself. So it is an unified runtime right now. So Mule 3.8.2 E has both the features of API gateway as well as your Mule core runtime. So I just created a domain project, and the domain project I created it. So I just got a mule domain config.xml. So I just have a single HTTP listener because right now I'm not having multiple APIs developed. So just a single API. So I'm just having a single HTTP listener so that the new API which I'm going to develop, which will get the listener configuration from this domain project. So if you are going to share the resources, make best use of it with a domain project. So of course, if you are going to have a HTTPS connection, you need a TLS context. So I just have HTTP listener right now. So I just Mavenize the project in Mule. To Mavenize a project, it is very simple. So all you need to do is like Mule uh, Mavenize. So right now Mavenize option is disabled just because I have already Mavenized it. So when you have Mavenized, you will get a pom.xml. So this pom.xml will feature your group ID, artifact ID, and the version. So the three things are very essential because obviously when we are Mavenizing it, we are trying to make all our repositories in a local M2. So when you are Mavenizing it, it just creates a local cached repository. So all your dependencies, all your necessary information will stored over there. So your central repository will start from your local repository. When your dependencies were found in the local repository, Maven will not try to collect it from the central repository. So that's a basic feature of Maven. So it just created the list of plugins. So if it is trying to contact to fetch some sort of plugin, it is going to get it from repository.mulesoft.org. So right now it is going and fetching it from the mulesoft.org. And if you are in an enterprise network, so you can make use of the dependencies and the repositories you really require with some sort of enterprise platform on your network instead of going to internet and fetching the information. So you can make use of that. So right now for the simple one, I'm just going to get the plugins from this repository.mulesoft.org. So this is all about this project. So when I created this project, when I have Maven it, when I ran this project, it will just populate the group ID and the artifact ID and the version in my local .m2 folder. So make sure you are visiting the local M2 folder. Um, like it will be there in your users folder. So you just need to go and visit your .m2, because when you are going to run your munit with command line, it is one of the very critical feature. You should know your .m2 how it is. Otherwise, you will end up in issues like you'll not able to figure it out what is going wrong. So I can show you my .m2 folder. So this is a .m2 folder of my mission. So I am having a repository. So as I already said, my pom.xml of my domain project, it is having the artifact ID as API gateway 211 and the group ID is com.test. So this is my .m2 com test API gateway version. So as you can see here, this is my dependency. So when I ran this project, I got a zip, but I just renamed it to a jar. So you can keep both the version, but make sure when you are developing another project which is just going to handshake with this API gateway, that should have the corresponding dependency. So the type of dependency, whether it is a zip dependency, you need to have like the dependency should be of type zip, or if it is a jar dependency, you just give it as type jar. So uh, when you run this project, you will get a dependency populated with the corresponding group id and this artifact id, and with the version it has created a jar. So if you want to know what is has, so I just extracted it already. So it is having the mule domain config.xml and mule deploy.properties. That's all it is. So we just created a domain project right now. So we are going to create a simple project to demonstrate our munit use case. So you can still write munit by just extending the munit Java classes of Mulesoft. You can extend it with your Java class and you can still do that. And because the easy way to do the munit stuff is with the XML, because with Java class you need the package information of their class to know okay what all the process I should follow. So the easiest ways to do the development also with unit testing is to play with XML. So that can really speed up your development in agile way rather than writing a Java code to do that. So I'm just going to create a new Mule project. So I will have the new Mule project as a unit example. Okay. I just selected the runtime as Mule server 3.8.2 EE. So I can literally change this runtime to point to API gateway also. So just because this API gateway has API gateway's runtime, so I can still change it, and I'll show you how to change the runtime. So when I click on the use Maven, I just by default populated the information as com.mycompany. I'll just rename it to com.testingunit. This is my group ID, and the artifact ID is nothing but the project name. So the version is I'll just make it to 0.1. So it is just populating the dependency informations. So I'll just drag a simple HTTP. So before that, I'll let me just switch the runtime to API gateway, because the Mule project.xml shows 3.8.2 EE. So if you want to change the runtime, it is very simple. Just double click on the Mule project.xml. Default will be there by default. So just click on the API gateway. Just save it. And you just need to update the dependencies. Sometimes it automatically does. So it just paired with domain API gateway, that it clearly shows. Still, the server runtime is configured as 3.8.2 because in 3.8 API gateway is in unified runtime. I just make it as a domain project reference right now. So I'll just drag an HTTP over here. This is a simple use case. So in the next sessions, we will discuss it in more detail about the unit of different use cases. Right now, we will concentrate about the simple use case API slash unit. Okay, that is my resource path. I'm not just giving any protocol, so by default it will allow everything. So I'll drag a set payload. This is a simple flow. I'm just having an HTTP, a listener which is shared from the domain project. I'm referring this one from a domain. So Just giving a control space. Set payload. You can just write a simple JSON here. I just wrote a simple JSON. I just selected the MMA type as application JSON. So let me just add a error handling also, because when you're writing an MUnit test suite, you need an 100% coverage. So the coverage indicates you have covered all the bases of your development. So it's not all about the positive scenario. The negative scenario is also important in unit testing. So that's why I'm just having a little components in the error handling. So in the error handling, because it's not having any uh, comprehensive computation, so I'm just going to have a set property over here in the error handling. So we'll just select, so just drag a logger over here, then we can make an adjustment. Okay, somehow it is not getting populated. So I can do it in this way also. Catch exception strategy. So if you are good in XML, you can do and play like this. So it is very easy. Sometime if your studio is having an issue, you will not end up wasting time. So I'm just giving a control space. So I'm just giving a set property, and I'm just going to have a error payload. So obviously it will error it out because it is requiring this parameter. So it is setting a property. So in case of error, what I'm going to give an HTTP status is 500. It's just an example um, to demonstrate immunity. So we will discuss different use cases in different sessions. Right now we'll stick with a basic one. Here also I'm just going and writing an example error payload. So here also I'll select the MIME type to be an application JSON. So I just selected it. Okay, so this is my simple flow. So I'm going to write the unit test suite for this one. So let me just run this project for a real quick, like, to ensure I should not um, end up in spending more time on the unit test, because just to ensure like my project is valid, it's not having any problem. So let us just wait for a couple of seconds to get it started. So let us wait for a second to get it started. So this flow, I'm having an HTTP and a set payload, a positive response. And to test the negative scenario, I'm having a two components. One is a property to set like yes, an HTTP status was set. So it, as you can see, it is initializing the domain project and then it will initialize your project actually. So that's the way it goes. So it is, domain project is to facilitate um, the sharing of resources. So the new app Munit example is getting started, still running. Okay, so it got deployed. So I can test this one. So it get me the response. So my project is working. So I'm just going to write the immunity suite for this. So all I need to do is just stop the server, double click on the flow. So right click immunit, create immunit example. So it just created a immunit suite for me. So as I can see, it is just um, this is it, yeah. So it just get me a test suite XML. So I'll just populate my pom.xml also to ensure like it is having immunity dependency also in the pom. Because we are going to cover this immunity in two sorts, like one with command line and one with studio, because it makes a huge set of difference in both these versions. Because when you're running munit with studio will understand your requirements, and it itself will provide the dependencies required so that your munit can gleefully work. But when you're running it with the command line, you often need it, because when you're trying to pair it with Jenkins, you just really need your munit should work with command lines just with the munit plugin. So in that case, you really require your pom.xml to be facilitated with appropriate dependencies. So it just populated the Munit version and Mule support version. So based on that, it will just populate the information, and this plugin is really important. So when your Munit plugin is added to your POM, you just see this execution phase. So when you are going to give a command like mvn test, the test target will be invoked, and the test target is having the group id and the artifact id to run the immunit jars for you. And basically it is trying to go and have a coverage for you. Like run coverage will ensure like whether your code is getting really 100% coverage or not. So if your code is not meeting 100%, you can still make it like the build should get failed. So you can make that with like setting the coverage points. Like right now it is not having any limitations. Like if it can just if it successfully executed the coverage, it can give you build success. But you can term it like I should get 100% coverage, otherwise my build should get failed. So you can make all those things in your pom.xml with the customization, which we can see much elaborate in the coming sessions. So I just created a simple test suite where the test suite I just created it, and it is having the flow reference to munit example flow. So I'll just save it. So it just renamed to munit example flow. So all your marks and spies. So if you want to mark a processor, like if you are hitting an HTTP endpoint and you don't want to hit it, you can still make a mock of what is the response it is going to give you. So that can really help you to facilitate in unit testing for a developer point of view. And if you are going to make munit as a functional suite or an integrational suite, you can still go and hit the endpoints actually. So you can do both the way whatever you want. But if you're trying to do it from the developer point of view, you can still make use of mocks. So the flow reference I gave, then this flow reference is going to invoke this particular flow which is there already. So I'm just going to write an asset, just asset equals. So what is expected and what is the actual? So the actual, which is expected, I just gave the id as 1001, so I should get a same id right now for this simple example. Okay, so what is expected is I'm just going to read it from the json. So I'm just going to read it from the id. So json id, whatever the payload which is getting through, it should match 1001. If it is not matching, um, the test case one is failed. Obviously you can make a customized message. I'm just writing a simple test failure message. So this is a positive test suite I have developed. And if you want to make another test suite of it, so here I'm having only one example. So that's why it is having the spring import resource of class path only one. If you are having multiple files which is having separate resources, so you need to import all your necessity resources here, so that it is just nothing but giving a reference to all the java classes if you are trying to run. So you'll make a dependency arrangement, right? So the same way the spring beans import will work. So I just copy and pasted off the same flow, and you can still make it like this one as flow test positive, and this one as flow test negative. So I'm just going to modify this asset equals. So because for the negative test case, I just need to evaluate with the HTTP status. What is HTTP status I'm getting? So because I'm not having any inbound endpoint, so I'm not hitting any system, so it is just having a set payload. So I'm just going to write outbound properties, because I'm just setting the HTTP status in the exception block. So I just need to have it like, yeah. So this HTTP status, if it matches 500, Yes, so that means my negative test suit has worked. So if it is not meeting that, negative test case failed. Okay, so how I can make use of the negative test suit is I just need to throw an exception manually. Okay, so throw an exception because I'm just having a set payload, so I cannot make the set payload to throw an exception. So for that, munit is having a flexibility where you can throw an exception whatever you want, so that you can test your negative exception, like your exception strategy, how it works. So you can just have a java.lang.exception to get an object, so that you can make a exception test suit test and just instantiating the exception class. So it is saying message processor cannot be empty. So I should throw an exception in a case where it should match a certain criteria where I should throw an exception. So the doc name is one of the critical features here. So the doc name is nothing but the display name. So I just don't want to have the same display name for my error payload as well as the positive payload. So I just rename like payload. I'll just rename it so that payload response. Okay. So if my doc name is matching this payload response in the execution, I should throw an exception. That is the idea behind this one. So they are having a really good feature where you can automatically select what you want. So payload response. So the doc name, when it matches payload response, it will throw an exception. That's an idea. So that's all. I wrote the two test suits. So my objective is should cover 100% coverage. So 100% coverage you will get when your test suite execution um, covers all the message process, because how many message process we are having is, excluding the HTTP we are having 1 2 3. So including HTTP we are having 4. So ideally your munit, when you are creating an munit suite, it uh, marks your input endpoints and your external endpoints by default, and if you want to change the behavior you just need to um, alter the immunit configuration which is defined over here. So by default it just marks everything. So in the global elements edit, so mark mule transport connectors, mark mule inbound endpoints. Okay, so I'm just going to run this test suite. So it is just running the test suite. So it is saying mule domain.config.xml not found. So basically it is not able to get the dependency. So let me see why it is having the problem. So I should see an API gateway dependency here in my pom.xml because I'm just getting the listener from that only. So let me see. Okay, so it is having the type as zip, because in my .m2 I'm having the API gateway as a jar dependency. That's why it is not able to find where it should load the, because in the API gateway domain project I'm having the mule domain.config.xml, so it should ideally pick it up from there. So just because of the type mismatch, it's not able to pick right now. Let us see how it goes. So I'm just running it. So let me just stop it. because we need to run the immunit suit actually. Let me run the immunit. So as you can see here, Mule provides its own transport connectors. Munit marks them by default. This flag disables this action, useful for integration test. Mule disables inbound endpoints by default. In order to disable it, select false. So this is one of the critical features. So let me just run the immunit suit. So right now we picked up the domain project correctly. So munit it'll do twice a time actually. So first time it'll try to run your suit, then it'll for a coverage report generation, it'll try to cover it one more time running the test suit. So as you can see here, there was an error. Okay, no, there was no error. So number of tests ran is 2, failed is 0, errors 0, skipped 0. So you can get a strange thing like why I'm getting this. So it's just because I'm just throwing an exception from my hand, like throw an exception and catch it, because my flow is not having um, any way to generate an exception by itself because it's just a set payload. So that's why I was manually throwing an exception and I was trying to catch it with the catch exception strategy. So let me see how much coverage I get actually. So generate report. So 100%. I got a complete coverage. So how I can saying it's a complete coverage? 3 coverage message process and I got 3 to 3. So basically 100% done. So I'm just going to run it right now with the command prompt. So go to the terminal. I'm already there. I'm just going and locating my Maven folder. Okay, so I'm already there in my Maven folder. So I'll just set Maven home, or I can go to my yeah, I can go to this particular folder. So just click on this folder. So I just need to go to this folder because this is the place where the pom.xml was there. So that is an important place where Maven will try to pick it up, where it is really the build dependencies were there. So I just went to the munit example folder. So when I type mvn, it is saying mvn command not found. So Maven was not there in the path. So I'll just set the mvn export Maven home, okay, is equal to, okay. So I just set the mvn home. Then I should export this variable into my path. I'm just appending it to my existing path, okay. and I'm just locating my bin folder to the path. So I'm just recollecting it how I set my path, whether everything is there or not. Echo dollar path. So right now it is having bin. Okay, so I'm just going to trigger mvn. So munit example folder is a parent folder which is having the pom.xml. So I'm just going to give the target as test, the test which is there in the pom.xml, which can highlight you like it is going to run the test suite, because it will locate your test dependencies and test target from the pom.xml. Okay, let me see why it got failed actually. So I got a single error. So let me see why it got failed actually. So how I can locate is just append it to a file so that I can just quickly visit like what went wrong. So I can go to that folder. Let me just go to the folder again. So there are multiple projects there. So what is the project I'm on? A Munit example. Okay, let me just type a Munit example. So the test log came. So why it got failed? Let me see that. So it says like error is 1. There should be some issue where it went wrong. Okay, so it is trying to locate an MEL expression and it got failed. So as you can see here, um, we just need to check the dependency stuff actually. So that's one we need to make ensure like are we getting the correct dependencies or not, because Studio will give you the 100 percentage because it fetches all the informations by its own. So let us stop this one actually. So let us try to run this one again. So whatever the JSON one, we should get it as part of Mule core. So we already have. Let us see it actually. So we should locate what is the problem over there. Go back to the test suite. So let us go to the folder one more time. So basically it is missing some Munit plugin. Let us try to add it. Munit configure Munit Maven support. Let us update the dependency one more time. So let us run this one. Let us run this one more time. Go to this folder and run the ambient test. So this is how you should troubleshoot an issue. Ambient test. Okay. Oh, we may need to set export. We should have the ambient home set. Actually, I made a mistake. Let me just export it again. So I'll just set it to path one more time. Okay. So I'll just echo the path. So I'm just running the MVN again right now. It is still having the failure. Hmm. Let me do one thing. Let me just delete the pom.xml and just populate it again. Let me just navanize it again. So by default, it just populated like not testing unit. So version is 0.1. Okay. And as I already said, like for API gateway, it should be of a jar dependency because I have it as jar. So let me just add it as jar. So just add the Munit Maven support. And you just need to go and click Munit suite. It's having an error. So the project is missing the Munit library. So you just need to populate the dependency, then everything will automatically go off. So go to the terminal and Just directly set this one this time. Just go to this folder. So yes, build success. So I think we have covered it very extensively. So that's all from this video. So hopefully you will enjoy watching this video about the Munit stuff. We will elaborate it more on the coming sessions in a very depth way. We will discuss about how to pair a Munit when you're running a project which is having a RAML. So we will discuss more about on the next session.